Hello, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. So, this is take 2 of this video. I filmed it a few days ago, and then like an idiot, I deleted it. So, here we are again, still talking about the Jaclyn Hill palette, Volume 2. To be honest, I didn't really even think I would be filming this video once, let alone 2 times, but here we are. Let's go ahead and talk about this palette, and there's actually some new information that arose in these 3 days since I last filmed this, so let's talk about all that. But before we do, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. Okay, let's go. So here we are. Is my hair sticking out? I can't tell. I honestly can't tell. Okay. Well, here we are, ready to talk about Miss Jaclyn Hill and her Volume 2 palette with Morphe. Yep, here we go. This is the Jaclyn Hill Volume 2 palette. Nobody asked for this, and yet here it is. I do have to say my initial reaction when I saw this was, one, completely unsurprised. I mean, sort of surprised. I thought that she was, so Jaclyn owns her own brand. Like, she does. She owns her own brand, Jaclyn Cosmetics or Jaclyn Hill Cosmetics or whatever it's called. So I thought that when she started posting YouTube videos again, so she posted like 2 videos, and before that she had not posted anything since November when her holiday collection was released for her Jaclyn Cosmetics line. And then all of a sudden, here she is. She posted like winter favorites, which was obviously filmed like around Christmas time because it was filmed up on like a Christmas tree, which I'm not judging. I'm not judging that. I filmed my holiday favorites and have yet to get them posted, so, you know, I'm not judging her for that. But then she also very quickly after that filmed another video. And when there were 2 videos that were coming up pretty close together after having not filmed anything for 2 months, I'm like, she's got something that's coming out. Like, she's releasing a new product. Everyone knows it. Everyone says it. I think I didn't watch either of her videos because I just was like, I wasn't interested at that point. But I'd heard through the grapevine, I've seen clips that she even addresses it. That's like, oh, people think I only post when I have like a new product coming out. And it's like, well, honey, you do. You do only post when you have a new product coming out. Like, just admit it. It's fine. Everyone knows it. You know it. And she's like, well, you know, it's really hard to, you know, have all this criticism thrown at me all the time. And it's like, well, then stop making poor choices. It's not okay that people are criticizing her for her weight gain, but it's true. She only posts when she has a new product coming out. I think we all just have to take a moment and say goodbye to the Jaclyn Hill of the past. She doesn't exist anymore. And I mean, I guess that's okay. We all have these parasocial relationships with Jaclyn Hill, but none of us actually know her. I mean, some people. Like, people know her. She's a real person. But I don't know her, and like all these other people who are complaining about Jaclyn Hill, we don't know her. And we just have to take a moment and be like, yeah, she is no longer an influencer. She's no longer a YouTuber. She is an entity. She is a brand in and of herself. I mean, she owns her own brand and she does these collabs. And, you know, brands are not your friends. And you know what? Jaclyn Hill's not your friend either. You're not going to see tons of videos from Jaclyn Hill. She's only going to post when she's trying to sell you something. And that is okay, I guess. I mean, you can feel however way you kind of want to do it because she's had her fair share of controversies, but I think we all just need to accept in the beauty community that Jaclyn Hill is no longer an influencer. She is a brand that's going to try to sell you something every time you see her face. Because then immediately after that, she was like, oh, I have a new collab with Morphe. And I was like, what? Why do you keep collabing with Morphe when you have your own brand, and the last time you collabed with Morphe with the Vault collection, that did not go well, honey. Like, that was a disastrous launch. So that was my first reaction. My second reaction when I actually saw pictures of the palette, I was like, that's pretty. Like, and it is. So here is the Jaclyn Hill Volume 2 palette that she released. This is objectively a very pretty palette, especially when you compare it to the initial Jaclyn Hill palette. You can tell how really bright and vibrant this palette truly is. Yeah, I mean, it does have some warm tones, especially kind of in here, but this just comes off looking very neutral and not overly warm when you compare it to this guy, which is very, very warm toned. So here's Volume 1, here's Volume 2. So yeah, my initial reaction was like this. Sorry, I'm knocking over the lights over here. Initial reaction was, yeah, this is pretty. I am attracted to these colors. I think this looks very nice, but I wasn't gonna buy it. I really had no intention of buying this. I honestly can't tell you what came over me that made me buy it. The day of the launch rolls around. I didn't know it was the day of the launch until after the launch had happened. I got an email from Morphe because, you know, I'm signed up for a lot of brands' email lists. And it's like, Jaclyn Hill Volume 2 palette has launched. And I'm like, oh, that was today? Oh, well, I mean, and then I was curious. It like piqued my interest. I don't know what it was. So I saw the email and then I clicked on it and it took me to the website and I was like, oh, this palette's still available? That's interesting, because it was probably, I don't know, an hour to 2 hours after the initial launch that I got the email, and I was like, oh, it's still available. Well, yeah. So I got it. It was kind of a whim. I did think it was very, very, very interesting, and I think very telling that the Volume 2 palette was still available. Actually, it is still available, and it's a couple weeks after the launch at this point. I tried to get this video filmed quickly, but then, you know, things happened. Called my fat fingers hit the erase button. Yes. So let's talk about this this palette. So, ooh, do I get into the controversy now or later? I predicted when I saw that this palette was announced that the launch would go smoothly because neither Jaclyn Hill nor Morphe could handle having another poor launch. Jaclyn Hill especially, she had all that drama with Makeup Geek, she had all that drama with the Vault collection, she had all that drama with Lipstick Gate. Jaclyn Hill has had too many bad releases and problems to afford another like mistake or bad launch. And I think initially it did until last week. Jen from Jen Loves Reviews, another YouTube channel, posted a video comparing the new Jaclyn Hill Volume 2 palette, and the Jaclyn Hill Volume 1 palette, and the Jaclyn Hill Volume 1 palette from 2017. So I have the original Jaclyn Hill palette from 2017. Well, what Jen found out is that this 2017 version palette is no longer the formula that they are using, that Morphe is using for the Jaclyn Hill palette. And so Jaclyn, when the initial palette was launched, made a big point to say that her formula with Morphe is unique. She is the only one who was able to use the formula with Morphe, and that she developed the formula and all of these 35 eyeshadows. She developed this. Now, it seems like from Jen's video, sometime between the initial launch of the Volume 1 palette and then the launch of the Vaults, Morphe decided to change the formula. The formula that is currently used in the Jaclyn Hill Volume 1 palette is very similar to the formula that is used in the Vault palettes, which everyone hated the Vault. I mean, Jaclyn said that that was the same formula, and everyone suspected at that time that it was not, because they were like, girl, these are not working as well as they did. And so it was like, oh, they were like pressed poorly, we'll fix it. Don't worry, we'll fix it. We'll take care of it. So then they like fixed it in like a ridiculously short turnaround time. So it's like, did you really fix it? no one believes you. And so when Jen contacted Morphe, what they initially said was, yes, it is the same formula. Well, since that time, she did her whole analysis, she did a comparison and found out that no, it is not the same formula. The formula from the 2017 version is no longer in production. The formula in the Jaclyn Hill Volume 1 palettes that you can buy today is the same formula as in the vaults and is the same formula in the Jaclyn Hill Volume 2 palette. However, it does not seem like Miss Jaclyn Hill herself knew that this palette and the original palette's formula had been changed. So in her launch video, Jaclyn did say that this palette, the Volume 2 palette, has the same beloved formula that she used in her initial palette. She said it is the same. It's the same formula. It's the best formula. Other people have asked Morphe to use her formula and they have said no. She has said no. So in the information that Jen had been given is that Morphe decided to change the formula. They added jojoba seed oil, they added coconut oil, and they added shea butter to both the Volume 1 and the Volume 2 palettes formula. The Volume 1 palette, this guy here, it actually was vegan. So there is no carmine. These reds that are in here, there's not that many reds, but like these guys. Well, with the new palette, the new 2017 palette with the Volume 2 palette, this is no longer vegan. This contains carmine. So if you are looking for vegan, it's no longer vegan. So it seems real shady. And I mean, it's a question, of course, always of how much did Jaclyn Hill really know? Did she know everything? I think, according to information, again, I'll link all of Jen's information about this whole situation down in the description box. But it seems like Jaclyn knew that they were tweaking the formula, but it doesn't seem like she knew the extent to which they were changing the formula. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. It's a little odd, to say the least, and it's just shady. I have a conspiracy theory. As to why do all of these influencers who own their own brands keep collaborating with Morphe? I don't understand. I get that Morphe made them their millions initially, that they were great to collab with when they were building their image and before they made their brands and all that stuff. But now that these influencers, and I'm specifically talking about Jaclyn Hill, Manny MUA, and Jeffree Star, those are the three influencers who've collabed with Morphe who also own their own brands. So it's why would you continue to collab with Morphe when you have your own makeup company? So my conspiracy theory is, it's kind of two parts. Either one, they are under long-term contracts in which they are obligated to do a certain number of collabs with Morphe. So with Jaclyn Hill, this is her third collab. Plus there were those brushes, so maybe technically her fourth collab with Morphe. So it's when she did this initial Jaclyn Hill palette, did she sign a contract with Morphe saying, I will do X number of collabs with your brand? Maybe. That's kind of one possible scenario. But my other scenario, other conspiracy theory, which again, none of this can be proved. This is just it's just me trying to figure out what purpose do these people have to keep collabing with Morphe. Now, all three of these influencers who own brands do sell their makeup in Morphe stores. So Morphe's a unique position that it started out private labeling, but it started out as its own makeup company, its own brand. And then as Morphe has grown and they have expanded into actual, brick and mortar retail stores, they also sell other brands within the Morphe stores. So it's kind of more like a Sephora or an Ulta. However, it's basically built around the Morphe brand, but with these other brands in the stores. And all three of Jaclyn's, Jeffree's, and Manny's brands are sold in Morphe stores. So my conspiracy theory is that Morphe has agreed to carry their brand's products in the Morphe stores and maybe give them a more favorable distribution deal. We saw a little bit of the deal going down in the Jeffree Star, Shane Dawson, The Beautiful World of Jeffree Star video when they're actually making the deal with Morphe. So maybe they decided to give them some kind of better distribution deal to sell their makeup. Maybe they agree to pay, you know, a little bit more for the makeup. They'll agree to take more units of the makeup if these brand owners agree to collab with Morphe. Again, I can't prove any of it. It's just speculation. But there has to be a reason, right? I mean, unless it's purely a cash grab, which, I mean, I guess that could be as well. Just, you know, seems a little weird. Seems a little weird. Okay, I guess it's time to, like, you know, take off our tinfoil hats and actually get down to reviewing this guy. So let's look at the actual palette. So this palette does retail for $39, and you do get 35 shades in this palette. So $39, you can of course use a code. You know, there are a million Morphe codes floating around. Use whichever one you want. I used a code, not Jaclyn's, but I used a code to get, you know, a 10% discount on this palette. So in this palette, they say, when Jaclyn Hill goes big, she goes all the way. Jaclyn's created 35 vivid shades to help you live your best life 24/7. So in this palette, there are 3 separate shades. We have mattes, we have satins, and we have metallics. And so when I swatched this, I actually swatched it by row. So there are 5 rows with 7 shadows in them each. And I think actually that's kind of, it looks, when I swatched them this way, the color story really started to take shape. So the first row is actually very neutral. The colors in the shade are very, very neutral. It's like browns, creams. The only little bit funky shade is that second shade that's called I'm In It. I'm In It they call a satin cotton candy, but it does have a little bit of a pinky purple shift, even though it looks fairly white in the palette. I was really happy to see that the palette does contain a matte cream shade. That's the first one, called Certified. That's this guy here. I was really happy to see that, because the one thing that I felt was really, really missing from the original Jaclyn Hill palette was a matte cream shade. So both of these shades in the Jaclyn Hill palette, these are both metallic. I never felt like I needed both to be metallic, so I'm glad that there is a matte cream shade. I did use that on my brow bone today. And then the rest is just basic browns. Any Morphe palette. I actually, as I was swatching them, had a difficult time. I redid the swatches because I was trying to save space, so I swatched things kind of close together. But on the first row, all those browns kind of just like really muddied together, and I couldn't distinguish them well, so I ended up redoing the swatches. So there's not a lot of distinction within that row, but I do understand why they included it, just to make this palette, I think, a little more versatile for, you know, that everyday look. So the next row is also fairly neutral, but we're starting to get a little bit more warm. We have that bright yellow shade in there called No Joke. We also have this like kind of pretty, I don't know, sort of pumpkin-y shade. They call it a matte tangerine that's called Feelin' Myself. That one's really pretty. And then we have a number of shimmers in that row, including a bright gold. I did use that one today as well. The next row I actually really like. So this row is very orange heavy. We have Positivity. That is a matte electric coral. They also have My Man, which is a matte neon orange. And then we also here get into the red. So Hard On is a matte strawberry daiquiri. Sorry. Sorry, every time I say daiquiri, I think of Hannah from season 1 of Love Island. If you know, you know. Daiquiri. And that actually was like a really fun row for me, because these are the colors that I'm really attracted to. We have like our pinks and our purples. So it starts out with what they call a shimmering lilac. This is like your metallic purple. You also have a matte orchid shade. And then I think my favorite shade in the whole palette is called Lolly Mama. And this is a matte fuchsia. I really like this shade. It doesn't swatch well, but I think it's actually a really pretty and like unique shade. I don't personally have any shade that's exactly like that in my collection. So that was one that I think I really liked. And then the last row is where you get your like true purples. So we have Stay True, which is a matte berry. Not My Journey, a matte amethyst with pink sparkle. Again, you can't see the sparkle like at all. You get a couple of like shimmering shades, a satin purple tulip, a shimmering fig, Matte Raspberry, that's the shade Oh Hello. And then Crazy, which is a little more on the red side, that's a matte Merlot. And then you also have Temptress, which is a matte black. Now I actually really, really like this matte black in the Volume 2 palette a little bit better even, I think, than I liked the matte black in the Volume 1 palette. Like this one just seems a little richer and more intense. I did use the matte black today as like an eyeliner. So since this is the second time that I had to film this video, initially when I filmed this the first time, I had 2 eyeshadow looks that I filmed and was gonna talk about. I still have pictures of the first look that I did. Not all of those were deleted, thank goodness. But the actual video of me applying the eyeshadows was deleted. So I'll talk you through kind of how I did. Today's look was playing with a lot of the oranges, the yellows, and the reds. So I think I kind of learned from my past mistakes or my struggles doing the look, doing the very first look that I did with this palette, and that was a very purple kind of look. I'll put a picture up here. So on the very first day that I used this palette, and like the first time that I initially filmed this video, like I said, I was very drawn to these purples and pinks in this palette, so I did kind of go for a like pinky purple look, and I started using this palette the way I would approach a traditional eyeshadow palette, in that I started building up the colors that are like in my crease. So I did start using the shades like Lolly Mommy and Therapy Sesh, because I said that I really liked those, and put those in the crease to kind of start building up the colors. And then I would go into Tipsy Girl, which is that bright hot pink, which is just, it really captures your attention, I think, in this palette. I was really excited about that, and then threw that into the crease and like kind of in the inner corner, or like on the, you know, the inner part of my eye, to start building up that color and the intensity. I thought that was really fun. And then I started to try to deepen up the outer edge, the outer corner of my eye, and that's where things started to go downhill really quickly. I started trying to use kind of like Stay True and Not My Journey, like these 2 purples in the bottom of the palette, and I had big time troubles with these. Both of them ended up looking very patchy. The pigment, it seemed to kind of just like cling sort of right in, like right on my, like the actual bone. Like it clung there and then didn't fade out, and it was just really unpleasant. Just, yeah, super patchy. It just did not look great. And like, didn't matter how many times I would go and I would actually try to just like pack the color on and not blend it out, the color just did not stay. It didn't stay well. I don't know what happened. I know purples are like supposedly a very difficult eyeshadow color to formulate, but if it's gonna be such a like purple, heavy, purple leaning palette, I really just feel like it needs to reform, and I just was not happy with it. I did go ahead and then put a Moment all over my lid, and then use a little bit of I'm In It, that like cotton candy shade, on the inner corner and on the brow bone. I thought that I'm In It shade was very pretty. Now that's supposed to be like a satin, but it does give off kind of a slightly metallic look. A Moment worked well. I did like that all of the lid, but just having played with that one, having swatched of course all of these. Oh, I did swatch and it does stain. Like big time, big time. These shadows stain your skin. So if you have sensitive skin, be aware. I don't really mind so much staining. It just, you know, it happens. I don't really care if my eyelids were stained, but after I did, especially since I have done this particular eyeshadow look twice, I can tell you that the purple eyeshadow look that I did stained my lids so much more significantly than did this red eyeshadow look. I don't know what's up with that. I would suspect at the reds, because once I got to that red row of like swatching, that's when my fingers really started to get stained. But this red eyeshadow look really did not stain my eyes the last time that I did it. But the purple eyeshadow look, yeah, it was really stained and really red for like that night and then into the next morning. So be aware of that. But what was I saying? Oh, I was talking about the shimmers. So the shimmers, I did put, like I said, that a Moment all over my lid. And having swatched all the others, I did play with Talia, I think it is, the gold shimmer shade today. I did play with that a little bit. These shimmers feel like a very similar formula to other Morphe shimmers, and the Morphe shimmers are really just not my favorite. I find that they tend to get hard pan very quickly, and that they feel, I think the Morphe shimmers are pressed a little harder, so that they're a little bit more difficult to pick up. I find that they apply sometimes with a little more pigmentation if you go in with your fingers, but then once you do go into fingers, then that's when they start to get hard pan because of, like, I think the oils from your fingers. So I am not the biggest fan of the Morphe shimmer formula. So that was what I did for my first eyeshadow look. I did like it. I thought it was very pretty, but it was not an easy look to create, and even though it looked pretty, I was not happy with it, because like if you looked up close, like I was like looking in the mirror, I could see just how patchy it was, and I just was like, yeah, super not happy. So when it came time to do this eyeshadow look, I kind of was like, I remember when the James Charles palette was released, a lot of people were talking about you have to use different eyeshadow primers. I used my MAC Pro Longwear Paint Pot on both eyeshadow looks. But I also remember watching a video from, her name is Yuki. She's really great. If you haven't checked her out, you should. Most people probably have, you probably have all seen Yuki, but I think she's really great. And she did a video using the James Charles palette and had a lot of trouble, especially with like the really bright pigmented shades. And so I went back and rewatched her video, and she talked about how she goes in order to blend pigments, which this is kind of a more pigment palette rather than an eyeshadow palette. How to blend like bright pigments is you go in with like the deepest shade first and then blend it out, as opposed to how you would with a traditional eyeshadow, in which you build up your crease and kind of build the pigmentation. So that's what I did with this eyeshadow look. So I did go in with my MAC Pro Longwear Paint Pot again, and then I went directly into that bright cherry red shade called Living My Best Life and put that in the outer crease and blended it out. This I actually think blended really, really well. I like the color payoff, I like the pigmentation, and I felt like it was very easy to work with, which using such a bright color is maybe a little bit scary, but I think it actually went on very nicely. Then I went into the shades. I kind of used both My Man and Positivity, those like bright orange shades, and I actually kind of just like put this in the crease and then tapped this kind of all over my lid and then blended it into the red. And then finally went into the yellow shade called No Joke and put this all on the inner corner and then blended onto my eyelid to, you know, kind of meld it to the orange. I really wanted just like a sunsetty fade with my eyeshadows. You know what I'm saying? That's what I was trying to do. And I think in general it worked well. Now, since this is the second time that I did this eyeshadow look, and I don't have any footage to show what I did last time. Last time I wanted it to look a little deeper and like richer. I wanted it to be, you know, a sunset fade, but I wanted still a little bit of depth and smokiness on the outer corner of my eye. So I did go into that dark Merlot shade called Crazy and try to blend that on top of that Living My Best Life red shade. That did not work. That did not work. Again, it got like immediately patchy and terrible looking. So you really can't blend deeper shades on top of anything. Like whatever you want your darkest shade to be, start there. So last time I was able to finagle things and really like buff and blend it out and then kind of just go back in with that bright red. I didn't do that today. I didn't even try or attempt to put any darker colors in my outer crease because I just was like, it's not gonna work. I'm not gonna try. And then also I noticed when so I filmed 2 videos. You've already seen my empties video in which I'm wearing a similar eyeshadow look, but it's a different day. I noticed that this yellow was completely missing. It had just disappeared from the inner portion of my eye. Like I don't know where it went. After I finished filming that video, I was like, my eyeshadow look does not look the same. And then I realized it's because the yellow has completely like evaporated. So the yellow is not great. It's very bright. It looks quite pigmented like when you swatch it. but it just does not have great staying power. Also, I really noticed today I started having a lot of trouble even getting that shade to apply and stick to my eye initially. Like it is still kind of a little bit patchy, like right in the inner corner. Let me zoom in and you can see if you can see it. Can you see? I don't know if you can see. But there is a lot of patches. I had so much trouble getting it to blend just right in here. Like just right at this inner corner. This one not as much, but you can kind of see how the yellow's not blended as well as the other shades, but especially this eye. So much trouble getting that yellow to blend. Which is just kind of, it was just kind of weird. I was like, why is there so much trouble with this? So what I kind of tried to do to remedy the situation and then actually ended up making the situation so much worse was going in with that bright gold shade called Talia. So I thought, oh, this will be really pretty. And that immediately made all of the yellow disappear and just be really patchy. So I had to be very careful trying to put anything on top of this yellow. I end up kind of like having to go in with the gold and then going back in with the yellow and blending over the top of it to get anything, and then just really trying to pack that yellow on because it was not great. The yellow just didn't really work all that well, even though it looks pretty. I was excited to see a bright yellow in this palette. The yellow is really not a great color. So because I did do this eyeshadow look before, I kind of was looking at those pictures that I had taken. I was like, something looks a little off. It's kind of missing something. So that's why I decided to go in with the black shadow and kind of create like a shadow liner, both on the upper lash line. And then I did go in with a little bit of super dried out, really not great eyeliner, but I did go with a black eyeliner kind of to tightline the lower lash line, just to kind of give my eyes a little more shape, considering I have this like very blown out, bright eyeshadow look. So that's what I did for my two eyeshadow looks. I think in general, I really enjoy both of the eyeshadow looks, both this one and the more purpley colored eyeshadow look. I do enjoy the final product. I think they're very pretty. I would not do that on a regular basis. Like it just, in order to get things to really be blown out, to be well blended, to get a fade, these shadows just don't seem like the easiest with which to work. They really don't. And I think a lot of that is the newer formula. I just never really had that issue with the original Jaclyn Hill palette. The shadows they are average. They are Morphe quality, I would say. They're not any worse than any other Morphe palette that I've used, but they're definitely not at the original Jaclyn Hill Volume 1 from 2017. I think they actually did a good job of having enough variety in the depths of shades and like the variety of colors, because so often with Morphe palettes, it's just 100 shades of brown, which this first row feels like any other Morphe palette ever. But when you actually start looking at the shades, even though there are a number of oranges, they all have like slightly different undertones. When you look at these purples and these pinks, they all are slightly different. I think they actually did do a really nice job of having some variety in this palette, even though it's a larger, 35 pan palette. So the Volume 2 palette, it is a very solid palette. It is not the best quality. It, of course, does not stand up to that 2017 Volume 1 palette quality level. Unfortunately, we also have to say our respects and our goodbyes to that original Jaclyn Hill formula. It is gone. But this is a very solid formula, I would say. It works well for the price. You are able to get nice looks using this palette. It's just not going to be an effortless look. But overall, do I recommend it? I don't know. Probably not. I like the color story. I think it is pretty. I'm drawn to pinks and purples and, bright colors, bright warm tone colors. So I really liked it. But if you have any kind of makeup collection of size, across your collection, I'm sure you could pull something together. If you can get this on sale, that would be even better. Use your Ulta points, wait for a sale at Morphe, wait for the Ulta 20% off sale. Then I would definitely I would say this would be worth your money. Well, this video actually ended up being a lot longer than my initial video, but I guess there was new information that came out, but I'm gonna go ahead and shut it down now. I think we have gabbed about this Volume 2 palette for long enough. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and found it maybe a little bit useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up. That would be awesome. And if you have not yet subscribed, be sure you do that. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you are notified of all of my upcoming videos. Thank you again for watching. I hope your day is fantastic. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.